And I think we're starting. So, with that in mind, look on my works, ye mighty, and despair. A little joke. And with that line, a correspondence between two agents in a huge war begin a very intimate and unparalleled romance ever. What are we talking about? Well, let's get to it, shall we? Hello and welcome to the Spiraken Book Club. How you doing today? Hope you're doing well. My name is Zan, saying konnichiwa, aloha, buongiorno, and what's up? And this is our first official book club of 2025, and one which we're doing a little bit differently because we're actually doing it as a live stream and then as a video itself. But I'm kind of excited to see where this goes because we're going to have some fun with this. And for those of you who are unaware and who are unfamiliar with me, my name is Zan. I am the host of the Spiraken Manga Review, Movie Review, and Spiraken Review podcast, which you can find at www.spiraken.com. We're also on Instagram, TikTok. We're on X, Bluesky, and various other social media sites. Just type in SPIRAKN. I guarantee you find us one way or the other. And if you're watching on YouTube, remember to like, share, subscribe, and click on that bell for notifications. So, with that in mind, let's actually get to it because we're going to be talking about something kind of fun, kind of different, kind of unique because we started off the year with a bang. And what do I mean by a bang? Well, we're talking about This Is How You Lose the Time War by Amal El-Mothar and Max Gladstone. A story about two agents in a war through time and their unparalleled, unique romance that spawns between them. And this is a novel that is written in a very unique way. If you've never read it before, the premise is, like I said, this is a time war happening between two groups, the Agency and Garden. The Agency is your typical technopathic conglomerate, and the Garden is a more utopian, plant-based, more life and nature-based group. And they've been at odds for each other for millennia. And their agents go upstream and downstream, messing with the braids of time, changing things and fixing it. And they've been going back and forth in this Cold War for all eternity. And our two main characters are two agents of these two organizations and how they meet and fall in love because they've been constantly fighting each other, kind of like spy versus spy, where one undoes what the other one did and the other one sabotages what the other one did. And they keep going back and forth until one day, one of them reaches out to the other ones with a letter. But not a regular letter, not a typical, here's your letter that's handed to you. No, it's a unique situation where it's like, here's the ashes you just burned, and they form a letter. And then there's more going on involving a seeker who is picking up their documentation. What is that about? Well, you got to read it to find out. And since this is the book club, we'll be discussing that a little bit on how it went and what our thoughts were on the situation. But more importantly than that, this story is told in a very unique narrative fashion, where it is each chapter is written from the point of view of one of the two agents. It goes from Blue's point of view, Red's point of view, Red's point of view, Blue's point of view. And they open up where it's Red starts it off, and then you get a letter, and the letter is from Blue. Blue addresses kind of is very snarky to Red, and kind of like, haha, you tried, I beat you. But just figured I'd message you and kind of glowed in front of your face. And the next time, from Blue's point of view, Blue is working on an operative. She gets sabotaged, and it's then Red's letter kind of going back and forth. And it is this we're gonna spit at each other's face becomes a camaraderie, a friendship, and then evolves into a romance. And this is a sapphic romance, so it's LGBT friendly. Well, they're both identifying as female. So they're female main characters who are in love with each other. And this is that story. This is the story of how they fall in love and all the ups and downs of going with it. Because remember, regardless of their situation, they are still in a war. They are still on opposite sides. And more importantly than that, they are kind of stuck because they can't really interact with each other. They can't really meet each other. The only way they've touched or interact with each other is through these letters. If they see each other, if anything happens, something bad will happen. Both sides will know something's up. So they have to pretend to be I don't know what's going on. I don't see this. I'm not sure what the deal is. And that is the thing which is occurring because we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know where it's going to go. And there's all these little references and points and things that Amal and Max do. And I've got to say, it's brilliant because we have all the letters from Red, all the writing style is from Max Gladstone, who is an American author, who is one of the main authors. And all the ones from Blue are from Amal El-Mothar, who is the other author, we'll say primary author, and she's from Canada. And they both did not really talk to each other during it, so they're actual real correspondence, essentially. They're corresponding with each other as they discuss this book. And yeah, it's a very, well, it's almost compelling to read more, but there's also the points where you want to stop, be like, no, I don't think this is going to go on further. I did this as a reading assignment where I was reading out loud, and as it goes further on, you start to get choked up by it as it's going on, and you get shocked and compelled to read more as you're going further. And that definitely does not sound good. But yeah, I want to be like, yes, I want to talk more about how awesome this is, but it's a story which, I'm not going to lie, when we first looked at it and when I first started reading it, I was not super happy with the style. I thought that the book was very unusual, and the concept of how they explain how the garden works and how the agency work and the world building is a little unusual, trying to also grasp the fact that their spirits, their identities are female, but their bodies are shifting constantly. Like the fact that Red has ports and engines, and her dynamics change over time. And that moment, it's a little weird. And then, of course, when you have Blue talking about pulling her eye out and then putting something behind the eye, because she's more organic, more flesh-filled, you kind of can't grasp it unless you have a very good imagination. I'm able to do that because manga nerd and huge reader. I was reading this with Greta. Greta was more like, I need something a little more tangible for the base of the story. But the feelings, the emotions, they're all there, and that's what was drawing us further. Because, like I said, you're reading this, essentially it's a love letter pen pal situation that's doomed to fail because they are from opposite sides. They are eventually going to get caught. And when they get caught, the options are they're going to die for their agency or they're going to be killed by their agency. And what are we going to do? What are you going to do? What will you do when you have to make that decision? We're watching this in almost real time. I will say it's kind of weird, some of the prose where it goes past tense, present tense, future tense, but again, this is a time travel story, so it is happening all around, so you kind of have to give it a little bit of a forgiveness to it. 1 second. Didn't have asthma for majority of my life, then as an adult, I get it. It's annoying. And usually I edit this out for whenever I'm doing podcasts, but this is a live stream, so yeah, that is what it is. And so let's get on with it. What else can we talk about this without going too further? So I talked about the prose a little bit. Out of the two writers, like I said, I like Amal El-Mothtar's writing a little bit better. I don't know why. It feels, I don't know, something about it, it just drew me more into the story itself. Now, I don't know, did all of you agree? Did you think that one of the authors was better than the other, or did you think that they both equally were awesome? Let me know. In the notes, we got a couple people who are watching right now. Hey, what you doing? Hope you're doing well. I know one person who emailed me said that the big question was, did you know about the Seeker? Now, if you haven't read it, I'm not going to spoil it yet, but if you have read it, you know the Seeker is a major part of the story, and I had an idea something about that, but I didn't have concrete evidence of what it was. Meanwhile, Greta was like, yep, this has got to be that situation. My Chekhov's gun was something seeded later in the story where it mentioned something that happened in one of their pasts, and I was like, okay, this is important for later. And it was. Even though that you're kind of first like kind of struck and horrified by it. because there's a whole chapter or three chapters where it's no more letters from Red. It's just Red's perspective for a little chunk of the book because of what's going on. Well, I don't know. It is one of those where I just should be drinking my Spiraken cup officially, but that's in the wash at the moment. So I'm using my wonderful cup provided by Greta. And it is fitting for this because, you know, that's why I'm also dressed in red and blue, because it is red and blue. So let us see what else is going on. Let's look at some other chat notes. Nothing too crazy, nothing. Oh, that's an interesting one. Did I agree that the agency was a little bit too much like the Matrix? Yeah, it felt like it was the Matrix when they brought up the pods and all that. I was like, yeah, that definitely is a very big Matrix reference, because there are tons of references in this. There are references to so many little deep cuts. I love the Atlantis reference where it's literally like, oh, it's not an underground thing with giant fish and crystals. I was like, oh, deep cut to the Disney Atlantis movie. I know someone said that there's a reference to Trigun. I have not found that reference yet. If you know where it is, let me know. I've been trying to look for that one. There's the Doctor Who reference, which was kind of obvious. That was shooting fish in a barrel. But I would have liked some other ones that were a little more compelling. And the twists in the story, because it twists and turns, it is a wild ride. And I would love to see this done. I think it is getting an adaptation. Let me check quick. Look right now. Right? Did we get an adaptation with this? In 2019, it's been optioned for television with scripts be written by Gladstone and El-Mohtar, but the gender of the characters are not up for negotiation. Okay. Okay. But yeah, so we are getting an adaptation of it, and they are keeping it the same, where it's the both she, her pronouns, but they're probably gonna fit a different the molds themselves. I personally would prefer that it's multiple different actresses, because it keeps saying they change shape, change forms. I mean, at one point, when it is someone is supposed to kill one of the characters, they change a form into an animal. So I would like to see all these different types. Like, it just be a multicast that they're all playing the same people, and the only way we know them is maybe their hue, their color. I don't know. I think this would be good, because this is a very it is a one of a kind romance, which I really was like, I don't know if I'm going to like this, but I did. I did enjoy this. It was fun and odd and weird, and just, I know I'm using weird descriptors that I should be using other things, but this is how it goes. It is one of those books where it's beyond description. And I really want to spoil it right now. I want to be like, yes, we'll spoil it and talk a lot about it. And I know most book clubs do spoil the shit out of the books. But actually, it's been 13 minutes. For those of you who are watching, all right, we're going to actually do spoilers, because obviously you knew that they were going to get together. We knew that Red and Blue were going to get together. It's a romance. We know that there were elements that you didn't expect. The fact that you had Blue essentially die and then come back, but the reason why she came back was because Red went back in time and made her that they're both kind of no longer red or blue, no longer agency, no longer guard, and they're kind of an infusion of both. That was kind of, it was foreshadowed and foretold very early on, but it was one which it still was surprising to get to there, especially because the final letter that Red writes, which is the death letter to Blue, it's so heartbreaking, because she's pleading, she's begging Blue not to die. Don't do this, please turn back now. Don't continue doing this. And yeah, it was one of those where you felt like you're tearing up and you're crying. For me personally, I did not have any ninjas cutting onions in the room. Greta may have had a couple, but that was kind of the point of the story. The story is a love story. It is just this collaboration between these two as they're trying to find the way to just, it's a natural story. And I know I'm using a lot of buzzwords, I'm being a little enigmatic, but that's just how my mind works with this. It's literally bouncing from place to place. It's not a cohesive narrative where it's like, okay, here's point A to point B, because it is time travel. It is the point of origin. Like there's no chapter numbers, but by the second to last chapter, we have Red going back to every single chapter and making small influences and some things that occurred which you didn't expect. You get the explanation for what happened with that. I would have liked to have more of Blue's perspective from that, like Blue to have a couple of representations for that as opposed to it just being Red. But who knows? I mean, maybe we'll get a sequel. I don't know. I don't think we will. Not entirely sure, to be honest with you. But regardless, I don't know. I don't know. Try to be like, yes, this is great. This is wonderful. This is amazing. I've talked about all the positives. Let's talk about some of the negatives. Besides the incoherent background, what's another negative about it? Well, besides the one writer being weaker than the other one, and the not incomprehensible, but it's the very difficult to see setting. I think that some elements were a little too heavy-handed when it was not dealing with the letters. The best part of this story is the letters. The letters are one of the most compelling. You do need the moments of when they're doing the job and it gets screwed up, or how they find the letters. That is important. I mean, who'd ever think of a waxed seal? If you remember a waxed seal. Who would have thought of that? That part is great, but it's the story itself, that actual letter, which is the part where you're drawn into. I mean, you could see on the current cover for the live stream, I put down one of the quotes, which is one of my favorites, which was like, I want you to know me, and I want you to think about me. And those are just, it's so filled with love and caring, and I'm gushing. I love that they don't, at first it's red, blue, but then they start saying my blue indigo, my apple tree, my strawberry, my pomegranate, my blueberry. And they get the pet names for each other as they're going through, because first it's we're fighting with each other, but then they are together, and then they're using things like hex code just to describe the colors and their pet names for each other. And you learn more about their worlds through them. Like she talks about their past, and we find out more about the agency and more about the garden through that. I think if it was just the exchange, it would have been good enough. However, now that as I'm talking about this, you do need that moment of just the explanation to build that world a little more, even though it is difficult to focus on the characters themselves, who are essentially amorphous blobs. They're amorphous beings that change and are constantly replicating. It has different images, different shapes. At one point they're this sharp thorn, but if you look at them, they're little girls standing next to a farmhouse on a hill. It goes from here to there. But irregardless, back to the quote I was saying, which is the one, which is, but your last letter, I am so good at missing things and making myself not see. I stand at a cliff's edge and hell. I love you, Blue. Have I always? Haven't I? When did it happen? Or has it always happened? Like your victory, love spreads back through time. It claims our earliest association, our battles and losses, assassinations, become assignments, or assignations. My apologies. That was my brain was being fuzzy, trying to fight a sneeze, because I don't want you to see me sneeze. But you know what? Blow my nose. And for the people who are watching it, hello. But yeah, let's actually get back to it. But yeah, that moment, it's just a real moment of acknowledging that she's in love with her, and it's a moment of just pure joy, pure, just like you feel the joy in it, that moment of, oh my god, I love you. And that is a moment that is great. If you've ever been in love before, it is that acknowledging that moment. It's like a sun bursting in your face. You want to smile. You just feel great. It's just a moment of just pure happiness. And that contrasted with the moment of Blue's death is also like the one I just mentioned before, which was, where was it? Hold on. It was okay, yeah, here it is. And yet you're still here, aren't you? Immune to my ruses, Indigo. I hoped you would leave and save yourself, but you remain. I think I would too. I hope I would be that brave if you are, that we each would give up as much to read the other's last few lines written in water and forever. I love you. If you've come this far, that's all I could say. I love you, and I love you, and I love you. On battlefields and shadows and fading ink, on cold ice splashed with the blood of seals. In the rings of trees and the wreckage of a planet crumbled to space, in bubbling water. In bee stings and dragonfly wings and stars. In the depths of lonely wood where I wandered in my youth, starting up. And even though you watched me, You slid back through my life, and I have known you since before I knew you. You're starting to choke up for it, and then Blue's reply, where I do like first that she's very witty, where she's like, "Brava, my pomegranate, well done, 9 out of 10. I reserve a point, always to encourage reach exceeding grasp." But then that, where she's saying, where she says, "I loved you. That is true. With what's left of me, I can't help but love you still. This is how you win, Red. A long game. A subtle hand well played. You played me like a symphony, and I hope you won't mind my feeling like a little proud of you for such a magnificent betrayal." And of course, we can't forget that the last line, which was, "Thank you, Red. It was a hell of a ride. Take care, my berry, my wild cherry, my foxglove." It's like, right here. It gets you right here. Yeah, it's like whatever you mean, whatever negatives it has, the story it's a story it's so compelling and heartbreaking and joyous. And it surprises you. And yeah, some people say this is the best thing ever written. I've read some things that are better, but this one, it's to make a point, its heart is in the right place. And what it does well. It does beyond well. What about you? What was your favorite lines? Anyone who's watching right now, what was your favorite moment in this? Let me know. Let me check the chat. What's going on right now? Looks like, well, that's not terrible. Got a couple interesting lines here, but not bad, not bad. Anyway, going into another part. What about the last line? The last line, that I hate to say it, the twist in the last scene, which, like I said, I spoiled a lot of it. I'm not gonna spoil the whole ending, but that last chapter, you did kind of see it coming. I know someone who I talked to was like, what does that mean? Is that who I was like, yes, it has to be. It is that. And then that last line, the twist on the actual title, which is they did a thing. It's, yeah. I mean, they did the thing like 2 times in the story too. Both said, "This is how you lose time more." Haha. but saying this is how we win. You know, it's they're making their own side. I do wish they did use like a reference to Violet, like saying we're now Violet or something, but maybe that's a little much. Who knows? Who knows? Well, now I should be giving a rating for this, and I'm going to be using my standard manga review ratings. And for This Is How You Lose Time War, I'm going to give this a borrow from a friend and don't return unless offered Pocky. It is a well done manga. Not manga, it is a well done book. It is a novel that is short enough to read in one day, or you could do it in a couple hours if you're really fast about it. It is a quick read. It is pretty well written, even though there is some elements which are kind of questioning. More importantly than that, it's a story which will make you want to think about it afterwards. Negatives are going to be that, yes, one of the authors is less powerful than the other one during the sequences, not during the letters. Letters are on point. But when they're doing the descriptions, then it gets kind of rough. The other thing is that if you are someone who is not willing to take a chance on a book where it is a Yuri sapphic relationship, you're not going to like this. It doesn't really get into it. It's not like reading something by, say, Colleen Hoover or by some of the more unique romance writers of our age right now. It is not that level of graphic. It's not at all. There's maybe one kiss in the entire book. And this is we've never met each other, but we love each other. And you could deal with that. But some people may be like, oh, this is gross. This is girls kissing. No. Which, well, you should read it anyway. But yeah, that's what I think. What I really want to mention is that this is one of those ones where you might not like this, but I still think you should give it a chance. It is one which is fun. It is one which is heartbreaking, wonderful. It is engaging. If you're a sci-fi fan, it does go all over the place, but it is worth it. And if you can get your head wrapped around bootstrap logic, you'll love it. Yeah. And with that, we actually did a poll on our YouTube page. Let me check. I can look at the poll right now to see what was voted. So officially for the February 2025 Spiraken Book Club entry, out of the choices between The Swifts, A Dictionary of Scoundrels by Beth Lincoln and The Apothecary Diaries, Volume 1, the light novel by Hatsu Hyuga, it's unanimous that everyone wants me to do Apothecary Diaries because you can never have enough Apothecary Diaries. So, looks like we'll be talking about Apothecary Diaries next time. Was this good success? Was it fun? Do you want more graphics? Or did you just like having the conversation with me? Well, let me know. Email me, zay@spiraken.com. Tweet me at Spiraken. Bluesky me at spiraken.blueskies.social. And if you want to help out the podcast, definitely remember to go to www.tinyurl.com/Spiraken or scan the code and let me know your thoughts on this. You could donate to help us create more content for you to enjoy. More importantly, something for all of us to, well, do our thing. You'll find out more on that and on that GoFundMe to help me fix my laptop so I could do more fun things. And, well, regardless, with that in mind, as usual, remember to like, share, subscribe. Click on that bell for notification for when we release new episodes. And as usual, like I said, I'm your host, Zan. I'm Gonzwell. Catch you guys next time, and keep reading books. See you next month. Oh, one last thing before I forget, before we stop the stream. Send your questions for next month.